of the internet. I'm Kibble.
I'm too.
Okay, sorry. Welcome to the Diversity and Differences training. This is going to be a crash course on prejudices we could have at prejudices that we could see at camp, how we can avoid those types of things, and overall make sure everyone feels safe, loved, and respected. So to start off, we're going to talk about isms. So this is any word or thing you can think of that ends in ISM, ism. An ism is any act or expression that creates exclusion or feels exclusionary. So really quick, I want you to think about what types of prejudices you think this definition could include, and you can go ahead and pause it right now. Give it a good think. I feel like we need the Jeopardy music so you guys can think.
You don't need to pause it. I'll just sing to you.
Okay, perfect. So now we're going to turn towards the board so you can see a few that we have written. So you can see, and the list isn't only limited to this amount, but these are some that could happen. Racism, sexism, transphobia, or homophobia, anything like that would make people feel excluded. These prejudices can happen in both obvious and not as obvious ways. And exclusion and lack of understanding is not always obvious to us. So it's our job as counselors to be aware when some of these things could come into play. So a thing to think about is, where do these expressions come from? Where do these behaviors come from? Like, where do we get them? A few things you could think about is our culture. We all come from different cultures and backgrounds. We have different personal experiences, whether that be our family, our community, our school, our religion. So different things, different words mean different things to people. And so we just need to keep that in mind and be respectful of that. Not everybody thinks the same way we do, and not everybody has the same ideas as we do. And lack of exposure could also be another reason why we could form these isms. So an important thing to remember is, how do these kinds of behaviors make people feel? How do they make you feel? How do you feel if you were somewhere and somebody made a comment about your race or your religion or anything like that? It's not great. And it doesn't feel good, and that's not what camp is about. Camp is not a place for these types of things or these types of feelings. So our job at camp is to protect all of the kids and everybody there from these behaviors and expressions. So,
I'll tell you a little bit. So
Sure.
If these are the things that we don't want to do, we don't want to have isms and prejudices. So what do we want to do at camp? Camp is really a time to celebrate diversity and differences among people. Everybody comes from a different background, and everybody has a different life, and we need to not just accept that, but like I said, it's a celebration of diversity and differences. And so think about different ways where you can make an environment where we affirm these behaviors and celebrate diversity.
Yeah. So a good thing to keep in mind is, how can we control our own behavior to reflect these types of things that we want? So you're a role model. And a role model is someone that makes statements and makes choices that are consistent with good ideas, positive values, principled beliefs. It's someone that we choose to listen to and are compelled to listen to because we have respect for them and we want to be like them. So a way you can do this is to be understanding of where your kids are coming from. Be aware of their cultural tendencies, just to have an idea of things that could happen. And always be self-aware of bias-related behavior and belief in stereotypes. If you say something, even as a joke, and you don't mean it, they still hear that and they still pick up on it, and that can be a problem. So make sure you're aware of what you're saying and identify if you do say something and how you can fix it and then not do that next time. So a thing to think about are what are ways that we can set up a camp environment to celebrate diversity and differences. Why are you laughing at me?
You're doing great.
Okay, so a big thing is that you can discuss the idea of respect for them. A lot of them they understand what respect is, and they know what the wrong thing is, but you also have to pair that with what the right thing is. And so make sure you're modeling, if you're discussing what a wrong behavior is, say like, we don't exclude people based on their race or gender or sexual orientation, and then you show them how to include them. Another thing is to ban like any hate-based or related words or language. Common example, using the N-word. That is not cool. That is not cool at all. And it's not a thing we want. It's an expression of hate, and it's not allowed at camp. 0 tolerance. And especially with older campers, sometimes it can be helpful to know about words that they use. I mean, I don't know what the kids are using these days. So just like be aware and make sure that if there are words that you think could be hateful or have some double meaning to them, that you're shutting it down and you're not letting people feel excluded about it.
Things like, that's gay, or you're sissy, or retard, don't say that word. Things like that.
Yeah, be aware. Don't let that happen. We want camp to be a safe place for everybody, and we want them to all feel like they are wanted, because they are. So, be openly committed to creating this safe space with your campers. Could be something you could talk about at cabin chat. Just make sure that everyone's aware, and then remind them. An easy way is just to say, hey, that's not what we're about at camp. That's not what we want here. And usually you can get it back on course. So let's say a situation does come up and you have to deal with it. By the way, in the quiz, you will be asked if you can tell us what our secret phrase is. Yeah. And so our secret phrase for this training is, we squashed it. And if you have watched EOT videos, you know where that comes from. So keep that in mind. So I want you to take some time. Go ahead. You can pause the video after this, or Jackson can sing us some more Jeopardy music.
That is my job in this video, my role.
You do a great job, honestly. So I want you to talk about, when these things happen, how can you keep the campers' behavior in perspective of camp and our message and our mission of camp? What you can remember as a counselor when this behavior happens, and objectives you would like to see to change the behavior. Hit it, Perfect. Okay, hopefully you weren't as distracted by that as we were, and you thought of some ways that these situations could come up and how you could deal with them. Some things to keep in mind is that the campers are children. Ultimate. Oh my gosh, our forest went away.
No, you guys have to appreciate our nice background. We put this up on purpose.
We're back. Remember, the campers are children. Don't argue, or don't yell at them, don't debate with them. That's not your job.
There are times when it can be frustrating because they might not agree with you, but like you said, remember, these guys are children.
Yeah, remember, you're the adult here. Keep that in mind. Yeah. Just like other challenging behaviors, expressing your emotions is not really going to help the situation. Use a calm voice. Breathe before you speak. Make sure that you are listening to understand and not listening to respond. Always ensure the immediate and long-term safety of the kids. If something is happening and you have to step in really fast, obviously take action, but we're all just trying to keep them safe for the week. And ensure the emotional safety too. If you notice that something one camper is saying is really offensive to another camper, make sure you check on both of them and you help them get to the root of the problem of what's happening. You can also talk to members on the admin team or mental health professionals if you aren't sure how to handle the situation. A couple things. Make sure that you follow up. Once you've addressed the situation and you've talked to them about it, make sure you follow up so that they understand, and that way it's less likely to happen again. And so that way everyone feels safe and included and loved, and there aren't any hard feelings, if that makes sense. And then, ultimately, if you have any really big issues and you're not sure how to deal with this, go to the camp advisor. They are there to help you. Camp advisor is someone from Nationals that is there to help with these exact situations. So don't be afraid to ask them and include them. They love to help.
Awesome. And so something that's really important when it comes to these prejudices and things like this is microaggressions. Microaggressions are everyday verbal and nonverbal, intentional or unintentional, like hostile or derogatory messages that we send to people. That was a long definition. Basically, lots of times, whether you mean to or not, almost everybody has microaggressions or does microaggressions. I don't know how you would say that. And so it's really important to be aware of microaggressions because they do exist, and you can't always catch it before it happens because they just happen. Be aware of them and try and stop them and fix them after it happens. Prejudice, we've been over it a little bit, but they're just unjustified or incorrect attitudes towards other people. It's kind of a form of, or microaggressions are a form of prejudice. And so one thing that we can do to help stop microaggressions and prejudices is to interrupt when things like that start coming up. If you see someone that's doing something microaggressively, try and stop in a respectful manner, whatever is going on, whatever they're saying or doing, and to, if necessary, you can educate people on why we shouldn't do microaggressions or just move to a safer and happier environment than what you're currently at. One sec.
Just kidding.
Great. So there. Sorry, this is a long one. We're shortening it for you guys because we care about you.
You're so lucky.
So there are different questions and things, techniques you can do to manage these. One of them is to inquire or ask questions. If you hear somebody that says a microaggression or prejudice, you can ask, please explain to me more about that or help me understand why you think that way. And then you can understand where they're coming from, and you'll be able to better address that problem and help them or help resolve whatever issue is there. And something that's really useful when you're asking these questions, make sure that you're understanding properly what their point of view is. So you can say things like, it sounds like you think this thing. Oh, the video's over here. It sounds like you think this thing. Or from what you're saying, it sounds like you believe this thing. And then you can confirm that you're understanding the situation right. And so then something that will really help you once you understand the situation well is reframing the situation. You can ask, what would happen if you were in this situation? Or how would you feel if somebody said this about you? Try and help people develop empathy for each other, and that can make a really big difference. A non-threatening way that you can address these issues is to focus on oneself rather than on the person. And so you can say, like, instead of you did this wrong, you messed up, you said something that was rude, say, I felt sad when you said this thing or did this behavior. And so I'd appreciate it if we could work on this or change, things like that. And so those are some techniques to help deal with microaggressions and prejudices. Ask questions, paraphrase, make sure you understand, reframe, help develop empathy, and use I statements rather than putting blame on someone else, saying you messed up.
Perfect. And another thing that you can practice at home or with somebody else, maybe a roommate, spouse, whatever. Go through these situations and think about how you would respond to them and how you would handle them as practice for camp. Someone using the N word, a camper saying that's gay, a group of campers excluding a camper with special needs, a group of campers saying something derogatory about another camper's clothes, another camper teasing someone else about being overweight or being too small, or a male telling a group of female campers that they can't participate in the sport because they won't be as good. So go through them, think about how you would respond to them, how you would handle those situations to make sure everybody feels like safe, loved, and respected. Last thing? Last thing, just make sure overall you are open to their diversity and their differences. It makes us, our diversity and differences are great. They make us different from each other, and they also bring us together. So at camp, we want to celebrate those things as much as possible.
Yep. Celebrate diversity, and don't let prejudices just happen. Be there and stop it from happening.
Perfect.
It'll create a good environment.
Yeah. So now you're done watching this video. So you're going to take a quiz in person. Thanks for sticking with us.
Bye, guys.
I almost said, have a great summer. It's an EOT joke. Okay. Bye, guys.